Thomas and Julia were the couple everyone envied. They'd been together since high school, a picture-perfect pair who seemed destined for a fairy tale ending. Thomas adored Julia. He worked 2 jobs to save for a house, dreaming of the day he could give her everything she'd ever wanted. To him, Julia was the sun, and his entire world revolved around her. She was funny, beautiful, and he thought fiercely loyal. That was his biggest mistake. The first crack in their perfect facade appeared on their 8th anniversary. Thomas had planned a surprise dinner at their favorite Italian restaurant. He'd bought her a delicate sapphire necklace, a stone the color of her eyes. He waited at the restaurant, the necklace box heavy in his pocket, but Julia never showed up. She called hours later, her voice distant, blaming a last-minute work crisis. Thomas, ever trusting, accepted her apology, though a small, cold seed of doubt was planted in his heart. Over the next few months, the cracks grew into fissures. Julia became distant, always on her phone, smiling at messages he couldn't see. Late nights at the office became more frequent. When Thomas tried to talk to her, she'd accuse him of being possessive and insecure. She made him feel like he was the problem, that his love was a cage she needed to escape from. The man who was once confident and happy became a shadow of his former self, constantly walking on eggshells, desperate to keep the woman he loved from slipping away. The truth, when it finally came, was more brutal than he could have imagined. Thomas's best friend, Mark, had been trying to warn him for weeks. He'd seen Julia around town with another man, a wealthy older guy named Richard. Thomas had refused to believe it, accusing Mark of jealousy. But Mark, a true friend, persisted. One evening he sent Thomas a location pin with a simple message. Just go. See for yourself. With a heart pounding like a war drum, Thomas drove to a fancy downtown hotel. He found Julia's car in the parking garage. Using the spare key she'd given him years ago, he opened the trunk. Inside, he found a shopping bag from a high-end designer store containing a slinky black dress he'd ever seen before, along with a receipt. But tucked inside the bag was something else, a hotel room keycard. Room 1208. Every step from the elevator to that room was torture. He could hear his own blood rushing in his ears. He stood outside room 1208 for what felt like an eternity, his hands shaking as he held the keycard. He didn't want to know, but he had to. He swiped the card. The light turned green. He pushed the door open just a crack. The scene inside shattered his world into a million pieces. There was Julia wearing that new black dress, laughing as she fed a strawberry to Richard, a man at least 20 years her senior. They were sitting on the bed, a bottle of expensive champagne on ice beside them. The intimacy of the scene, the casual way she touched Richard's arm, was a dagger to Thomas's heart. He didn't storm in, he didn't scream. Quietly backed away, closing the door with a soft click they never heard. In the silent car ride home, something inside Thomas broke. The love, the trust, the years of devotion, it all curdled into a cold, hard knot of rage and betrayal. The man who had been so full of love was gone. In his place was someone he didn't recognize, someone who wanted not just to move on, but to get even. He was no longer the victim. He was the architect of Julia's downfall. His plan began to form, meticulously, calmly. He knew Julia's biggest weakness wasn't just men, it was money and status. Richard was her ticket to a life she felt she deserved. A life Thomas was working tirelessly but slowly to provide. So Thomas decided he would take that away from her. He spent the next 2 weeks living a lie. He was the perfect, doting boyfriend, pretending to believe her stories about work. Meanwhile, he was digging. He learned everything he could about Richard. He was the CEO of a major tech firm, married with 2 kids in college. He was also a man who valued his public image above all else. This was his weak spot. Thomas created a fake email account and started sending anonymous tips to a notorious local gossip blogger. He sent them photos Mark had discreetly taken of Julia and Richard together, a copy of the hotel receipt, and details about their secret meetings. He crafted the story carefully, painting Richard as a predator and Julia as a calculating homewrecker, targeting a powerful married man. He knew exactly which buttons to push to create a scandal. While the digital bomb was ticking, Thomas focused on their shared assets. The house they were saving for was in an account under both their names. He legally couldn't touch her half. But the furniture, the car they shared, the life they had built, he began quietly disentangling himself. The day the blog post went live was the day the world exploded. Richard's company stock took a hit. His wife, humiliated and furious, immediately filed for divorce. The scandal was everywhere. Richard, in a panic to save his reputation, cut Julia off completely. He blocked her number, had his lawyer send her a cease and desist letter, and publicly denied everything, painting her as an obsessed stalker. Julia came home that night in a complete meltdown. Her dream life had evaporated in an instant. She was crying, screaming, blaming Richard, the blogger, the world. She threw herself into Thomas's arms, expecting him to be her rock, her safe harbor. That's when Thomas delivered the final blow. He looked at her, his eyes as cold and empty as a winter sky. "I know everything, Julia," he said, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. Room 1208. The black dress. Richard. The color drained from her face. She started to stammer to make excuses, but Thomas held up a hand to stop her. "I don't want to hear it," he said. He walked over to the closet and pulled out a packed suitcase. "These are your things. The rest of your stuff is in storage. The number is on the table." He then showed her his phone. Open on the screen was the email outbox of the fake account he'd created, showing all the messages sent to the gossip blogger. Her eyes widened in horror as she realized who had orchestrated her ruin. It wasn't Richard's wife. It wasn't a jealous rival. It was him, the man she had betrayed. "You did this?" she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief and rage. "You did this to yourself," Thomas replied calmly. "You made your choice the moment you walked into that hotel room. I just made sure the consequences found you." He watched as she left, defeated and alone. There was no sadness in him, no lingering love, just a profound, chilling emptiness. The revenge had been successful, but it hadn't healed him. It had only hollowed him out further. The old Thomas was gone forever. The betrayal had reforged him into someone harder, more cynical. He moved to a new city, focused on his career, and built a fortune for himself, not for anyone else. He was successful, respected, but always kept people at arm's length. He never trusted anyone fully again. The scar Julia left on his heart was a constant reminder that love could be a weapon, and he would never allow himself to be a target again. He had won the battle, but in the end, he had lost a part of himself that he would never get back. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a story you'd like to share, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. We'll see you next time.